Now let us move on to another investigation. This time, we are studying variation in a group of people to understand both continuous and discontinuous variation in humans. The objective of this investigation is to collect and analyze different characteristics in a group of about 20 people. By doing this, we can clearly see which traits fall into distinct categories and which traits show a continuous range of values. To carry out this investigation, we need simple materials such as a ruler for measuring hand span, a tape measure for height, a recording sheet or notebook to write the data, and a pen or pencil. We also need a group of 20 people, such as classmates, family members, or neighbors. We begin the procedure by selecting our group of people. Then we prepare a table with headings such as name, eye color, tongue rolling ability, hand span, shoe size, height, and sex. This table helps us record both discontinuous and continuous traits in an organized way. Next, we measure and record the data. Hand span is measured using a ruler, and height is measured using a tape measure. Other traits such as eye color, tongue rolling ability, and sex are observed directly. It is important to note that sex is a discontinuous trait and is determined genetically through sex chromosomes, where individuals are either male or female. After collecting the data, we organize it carefully. For discontinuous traits like eye color, tongue rolling, and sex, we group the results into categories and use tally marks to count how many individuals fall into each group. For continuous traits such as height, hand span, and shoe size, we divide the values into class intervals. These intervals must not overlap, so that each value fits into only one group. Once the data is organized, we plot graphs. Bar charts are used for discontinuous variation because the categories are separate and distinct. Histograms are used for continuous variation because the data forms a continuous range, and the bars touch each other to show this. Now let us look at the observations. We see that some characteristics such as eye color, tongue rolling ability, and sex fall into clear categories with no intermediate forms. These are examples of discontinuous variation. On the other hand, traits like height, hand span, and shoe size show a wide range of values, which means they are examples of continuous variation. This shows that individuals vary in both types of traits. After collecting the data, we organize it in a structured way. Remember that, we measured hand span using a ruler and measured height using a tape measure. Other features such as eye color, tongue rolling ability, and sex were observed and recorded directly. For discontinuous data like eye color, tongue rolling, and sex, we group the results into categories and use tally marks to show frequency. For continuous data such as height, hand span, and shoe size, we divide the values into class intervals such as 155 to 159 or 160 to 164. We make sure these intervals do not overlap so that each value fits into only one group. Once the data is organized, we represent it using graphs. For discontinuous variation, we use bar charts because the data is in separate categories. For continuous variation, we use histograms because the data is in a continuous range and the bars touch each other. Now let us look at the observations. We notice that some characteristics such as eye color, tongue rolling, and sex fall into distinct categories. There are no intermediate forms between them. On the other hand, traits like height, hand span, and shoe size show a wide range of values. This means individuals vary continuously in these traits. Now we will explain each table and graph individually. First, consider the eye color table. This table groups individuals into categories such as blue, black, brown, green, and hazel. Each category is recorded using tally marks, and then the frequency and percentage are calculated. For example, if each category has 4 individuals, then each represents 20% of the group. This shows discontinuous variation because eye color falls into distinct categories. A bar chart is used to represent this data, with separate bars for each eye color. Next, we have the tongue rolling table. This also shows discontinuous variation. Individuals are divided into 2 groups, those who can roll their tongue and those who cannot. For example, 12 people may be able to roll their tongue, which is 60%, while 8 cannot, which is 40%. A bar chart clearly shows these 2 categories with no intermediate values. Next, we examine the hand span table. This is an example of continuous variation. The measurements are grouped into ranges such as small, medium, and large. The frequency of individuals in each range is recorded. A histogram is used to represent this data, where the bars touch each other. A bell-shaped curve can be drawn over the histogram, showing that most individuals have average hand spans, while fewer have very small or very large values. Now consider the shoe size data. This also shows continuous variation. Shoe sizes are grouped into ranges such as 5 to 6, 7 to 8, 9 to 10, and so on. The frequency of people in each group is recorded. A histogram is used, and again a normal distribution curve may appear, showing that most people fall in the middle size ranges. Finally, we look at the height data. Height is a classic example of continuous variation. The values are divided into class intervals, and the number of individuals in each range is recorded. A histogram is plotted, and a smooth bell-shaped curve is often seen. This shows that most people are close to the average height, while fewer individuals are at the extremes. Now let us look at the sex determination table. This is another example of discontinuous variation. Individuals are grouped as male or female. For example, there may be 11 males and 9 females in the group. This is represented using a bar chart, with 2 distinct bars. This trait is genetically controlled and does not show intermediate forms. In terms of results, all data is recorded using tally charts and grouped frequencies. Bar charts are used for discontinuous variation, and histograms are used for continuous variation. The graphs show that some values occur more frequently than others, especially in continuous traits where most values cluster around the average. In conclusion, this investigation shows that a group of people displays both continuous and discontinuous variation. Continuous variation is seen in traits like height, handspan, and shoe size, which show a measurable range of values. Discontinuous variation is seen in traits like eye color, sex, and tongue rolling, which fall into clear categories. This investigation helps us understand how different traits vary within human populations and how different types of graphs are used to represent them. In the analysis, we also observe that continuous traits often show a normal distribution pattern, where most values are in the middle and fewer are at the extremes. Larger sample sizes usually make this pattern clearer. Discontinuous traits, however, always show distinct categories with no intermediate forms. This clearly demonstrates the difference between the two types of variation and how they are represented graphically. So that wraps up Unit 17.1 on variations. Take a look at the tropical notes below, and stay tuned for the next one. Thanks for watching.